Business operations, another flip lesson. So far we've talked about the nature of management, the importance, and what skills are needed to be an effective manager. We also have talked about what business have to do to adhere to the business goals. Now we're going to talk about how it's all done. What strategies are we going to put all these things into action? Managers have to make decisions how best to administer the four main business functions. Let's have a look at those. The operations section in any business doesn't operate alone. They focus on strategies to improve production processes and to create the ideal factory output. The marketing determines the appropriate markets for the business products and decide on pricing, product features, promotion and channels of distribution. Finance, responsible for the financial requirements, the budget allocation and also the record keeping. And lastly, the human resources concerned with recruiting, training, employing contracts and also in some instances the separation of employees. And all these people are obviously there to run the business successfully. Now one point that needs to be made, that all these functions are interdependent. It refers to the mutual dependence that they have on one another. This means that the four business functions work best when they work together. It's no good having one good department and not being financed properly, for example. It's no good having the finance there and not having the sufficient or appropriate human resources. So they've got to work together. It's just like a team in sport. You can have brilliant individuals, but when the team works together best, you're going to get the best result. Now let's have a look at what we produce here. We can either produce goods which are tangible or service which is something that's intangible. Now with this background, let's have a look at operations management itself. It refers to the processes that involved a transformation of a production process. As I already pointed out, they produce a good or a service. They use inputs from a variety of resources, physical, human or finance, that meets the need of customers. Operation is really the heart of the success of all businesses. It involves bringing all the skills together, using the resources as best they can, such as finance, equipment, management, technology, people, to create finished goods and services for a series of operations. If we talk about a bakery, for example, they're obviously going to source the best ingredients, use the best processes and recipes to produce cakes, pies, etc., what the customers want, and at the price that they're willing to buy them at. That was a quick introduction to operation management. Can you please stop and have a look at these questions? Page 198, questions 3, 4, 5 and 6. Page 201, questions 2 or 3. Now let's have a look at the production process proper. It engages in a series of inputs. They are transformed in a production process to produce something termed as an output that customers want. Inputs, as I said, you can either have raw materials, capital equipment, you obviously need some labour, you need information or knowledge in order to put all these things together, and of course you need time, and with that, money. Now let's have a look at an operations in a service business. We start with inputs. It's usually, this industry tends to be a lot more labour intensive, relying on people's skills, experience, doing some specialised work. The transformation is usually in the form of providing some advice or giving time or helping somebody to perform a task. And outputs tend to improve the quality of life. Usually tends to be intangible. For example, advice is intangible, but it makes the final service or the product a lot better. Now let's turn our attention to a manufactured product. Skills and expertise is very important, but here you take some raw materials, use some capital equipment, and turning it into an output that is tangible, something that we can see. It does tend to involve an assembly or manufacturing process. It can be also labour intensive, but in a lot of cases, for example, if you talk about producing motor vehicles, it's highly automated using technology and robots and so forth. Let's have a look at this table to summarise a few things that I was saying. If we talk in terms of a manufactured product like a clothing factory, they need pattern cutters, designers, drivers, machine operators, and so on. The transformation process will be a dyeing machine, which tends to be computer based, some cutting, some machining, some branding, some checking for the quality process, and we have some garments as an output. In terms of a service, for example, a private hospital, nurses, doctors, operating theatre and so forth, they do more in consultations, diagnosis, treatments. The output in this case is not something that you can physically touch, but it is an intangible thing where patients are returned to health. Again, I'd like you to check your understanding, take stock on what I've said and what you've learned. Page 207, questions 1 or 2, please. 1 and 2. Once the goods are produced, or any processes or advice has been given through a service or whatever, we need to ensure that the quality is there. It's a strategy which business uses to make sure that the product meets the customer expectations. In the end of the day, we're trying to produce something that is for them. There's 3 quality control approaches that I'll talk to you about, but in essence, they're all designed to minimise waste and defects, conform to standards, and make sure that we produce the same thing every time, so there's no variance. Let's talk about the first one, straight quality control. What we aim to do here is to optimize the production process. We try and reduce waste to use our resources the best way we can, and also to reduce defects. Any defect we either have to throw out or sell at a lower price. For example, if you talk about a chocolate factory, I remember I used to go to Cadbury's and buy their seconds. It still tastes good, but it wasn't up to their desired standard that they could sell to the general public. Now, quite often we hear that products have to meet certain standards, the ISO standards, what International Standards Organisation, and items have to meet those standards, and they're internationally recognised. The ISO itself provides guidelines on how businesses should establish their quality assurance systems by adopting specific procedures, controls, and documentation measures. And lastly, we talk about total quality management. It's almost an attitude as well as a process. It's a commitment that emphasises continuous improvement in all aspects of what the business does. TQM is really part of what the business stands for. The emphasis obviously on quality. As I said before, the main focus is on continuous improvement. If you don't continue to improve, someone else will come past you. It relates to all aspects of the business operations, and the commitment has to be made by every employee. The commitment is matched by the responsibility that is given by the employer to achieve employee empowerment, so they can come up with ideas, because they're the ones that are dealing with the customers face to face. As I said, it's all about the customer, so everybody in the organisation has to maintain a customer focus in order to attain a competitive advantage. If we don't continue to improve and look for improvements and ways of doing things better, a competitor will come along and do it better, we lose customers, and so on. So in conclusion, total quality management is an ongoing business-wide commitment to excellence that's applied to every aspect of the business's operations. A number of approaches may be used, such as employee empowerment, continuous improvement, and an improved customer focus. To finish off, I'd like you to do one last section of questions that complete your set of notes. Page 213's questions 1, 2, 3 and 4. Thank you for listening.